There are a whole variety of diets out there, but in this video, I want to see whether there is one diet out there that is more effective than others, and particularly to see whether there's one that's better at helping you to maintain the desired weight that you would have achieved. And we're going to go through some rules/myths of weight loss. We're going to look at which food you should focus on and which foods you really need to avoid if you want to achieve your goals. And make sure you stick to the end, because I'm going to also look at the role of exercise with weight loss, and actually that part may just surprise you. So stick to the end. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dr. Steven. I'm a chiropractor in the UK. And on this channel, we are all about helping you to live your best life through optimizing your health. And in this video, I just want to look at weight loss, and particularly looking at the type of diet that will help you maintain the weight. Because as I went through in my last video, around 95% of diets will fail after 2 years, but you don't have to be part of that statistic. Now, when I've been researching this, there are 3 popular diets out there that I could find and that I'm familiar with. The first one is the low-fat diet. The second one is a low-carbohydrate diet, and the third one is the calorie-restrictive diet. And there are lots of sub-diets that come into those categories, such as the Atkins diet, the paleo diet, the Mediterranean diet would come under the low-carb diet. So generally, I think we can put most of them in those categories, particularly when we're looking at weight loss. But the question is, which one works, and is there one that's more effective? Which one's more healthy? Which one helps you to maintain that weight for the long term? And which one should you choose? So looking at the research, the first piece of research I just want to mention, and I'm going to go through these relatively quickly, and then I'm going to go into the practicalities. The first one is a systematic review, where they looked at a whole bunch of research to see, is there a conclusion that we can draw from the research that is out there? So it's termed a good quality, high quality piece of research. This one looks at the top 14 diets out there, and they wanted to see, was there one that was more effective at helping you lose weight in 6 months? And interestingly, with this one, they identified that the majority of those diets were effective at helping you lose weight, but none of them were that significantly better at losing weight than the other. So that is quite interesting. Another study in 2012, they looked at energy expenditure, and they compared the low-fat diet and the low-carbohydrate diet. And what they found in this one was that the low-carb diet had a higher energy expenditure. So that basically means, really essentially, that the metabolism was higher in those that were on a low-carb diet compared to a low-fat diet. I would theorize that's because if you're on a low-carb diet, that means your body is busier and it needs more energy to better convert your fat and protein into sugar. Another study in 2015, where they compared the low-fat diet and the low-carbohydrate diet again, and they were simply seeing which group would lose more weight. And the low-carb diet, they lost almost twice as much weight compared to the low-fat diet. In 2023, they did a study where they were comparing the calorie restriction diet and the low-carbohydrate diet. So the low-carbohydrate diet, they maintained the same amount of calories, but they just reduced their carbs, and the other group, they just reduced overall calories. And in this one, the low-carbohydrate diet lost a lot more weight than the low-calorie diet. So we can see from all of that there is a lot of variety, there are differing results, and there is a long debate on which way is best to go. I think the general conclusion that I've taken from this is that there are many ways to lose weight. But overall, the low-carb diet, I think, is the best, reducing your carbs and your sugars, and actually increasing your fats and your proteins. And I don't think this is just good for losing weight, but it's also better for improving your health, because in one of those studies where they looked at the low-carb diet, what they also found, they didn't just lose more weight, but they also had a better insulin control, which is a big predictor of things like diabetes, heart disease, etc. So it's not just about losing weight, but it's also about maintaining health. And that's why I think low carb and low sugar is better. Now, let me just explain why and some of the practicalities of this and how we can implement this. But let me just go through my 3 rules/myths to losing weight. And the first one is more of a myth really, is that calories in doesn't necessarily equal calories out. The amount of calories that we consume through our food minus the amount of calories we burn through metabolism and energy doesn't equal how much weight we're going to have. And in some people have even shown how your body can actually acclimatize to the difference in the calories you start taking. So if you reduce the calories, you might lose a little bit of weight, but your body will just readjust anyway. This just oversimplifies the process more, and this leads me on to rule number 2, is that it's the types of food that is important, not the amount of food. Although the amount of food plays a factor, but what you're consuming is way more important. And number 3 is we want to pay attention to our glucose curve. And what I mean by that is how much sugar is flooding your body all at once. And this is the problem about carbs and sugars, is that you get a high spike of glucose or sugar into your blood. Why that's important is because when your body gets too much glucose, too much sugar in the blood, you'll get a release of insulin, and the body will store this sugar as fat for later. And it's actually been shown that if the higher spikes you have of glucose in your blood, and the more often this occurs, the more that your body will store fat. So we want a diet that is going to maintain a steady glucose curve, but that this is also shown to reduce chronic diseases into the future, such as diabetes, heart disease, that sort of stuff. So what should you eat? As I mentioned, you want to aim at protein, fat, and fiber, as well as, of course, your micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals. The protein and fat, well, let's start with the fat. The fat is important because you need unsaturated and saturated fats for your body to function. You also have fat-soluble vitamins in fat, and so if you reduce fat in your diet, you're also going to reduce the fat-soluble vitamins in your diet, which is not going to be good. Protein is needed for just the basic building blocks for building different types of tissues, your muscles being one of them. And the fiber is really important for slowing down your food as it goes through your digestive system, and that's important particularly for reducing your glucose curve, because if you don't have much fiber, that sugar can enter your blood much quicker. The fiber actually slows down that sugar and therefore gives you a more steady release of sugar or energy throughout the day. Sugar and carbs doesn't really produce much more than the sugar itself, well, particularly sugar. Sugar will give you glucose, and that's really it. But you can get this glucose from fat and protein. So there's really no other reason to take glucose or sugar except for the fact it's going to give you a dopamine release, which is why we love it. It is a myth that it's going to give you energy. This is actually not really what it does. It just gives you more dopamine, which makes you feel good, which makes you want more of it. So we don't really need sugar, and the carbs doesn't give you that much nutrition. There is a little bit of fiber, particularly if it's whole grain, but it just very quickly converts to sugar. So in an ideal world, I do believe that having a diet that is mainly focused on fat, protein, fiber, and your micronutrients as a primary source of your diet is going to be much more healthy than having a diet that has a lot of grains and a lot of carbs. Not to say you can't have carbs or sugars, but I try to focus on reducing particularly the carbs and the sugars. Now, one food in particular, in addition to the sugar and the carbs, that you want to either avoid or reduce, but one you absolutely want to reduce or ideally cut out completely because your body absolutely does not need it at all, is processed and ultra-processed foods. The reason why is because processed foods aren't designed for your body. Your body is designed to take food that is in nature, such as meat, plants, that sort of stuff, because it is in the form that we can take in. If I take refined sugar as an example, as an ultra-processed food, what they've done is from the sugar cane, they've extracted the sugar and they've taken it by itself. And then we consume it without anything else around it, which means that we get a very high glucose spike, and it's very disruptive for our bodies, as opposed to having that sugar in fruit where it's surrounded by fiber, and therefore the fiber can slow down that sugar going into the blood, so it's not as bad. Processed foods, in a whole variety of different studies where they looked at different processed foods, has been linked to all sorts of different conditions such as cancers and lots of different things. So I would just really try to avoid it, and as I mentioned before, you want to focus on natural food as much as possible. So lastly, exercise. What role does exercise have in losing weight? It doesn't actually have as much of an impact as you may think. And diet, when we compare diet and exercise, diet is way more important than exercise. Because if you take this as an example, a piece of toast will just be around just over 100 calories. If it was just on its own, it would take you half an hour to burn those calories off. So if you're thinking in regards to what I eat and the amount of exercise I need to do to burn off what I've eaten, it's going to be a losing battle. But what exercise can do is it can help to increase your metabolism, as well as, of course, all the other huge health benefits. So I'm absolutely not saying that you should cut it out. Exercise is really, really important, and it should be in addition to diet. But if all you're doing to lose weight is just focusing on exercise, normally people struggle, and you're not really going to get that far. So it has to be diet number one and exercise number two. If you are going to use exercise to help you to lose weight, it is actually better to do strength training. And the reason why is because when you are training your muscles, you're essentially breaking them down, and in the process of the body rebuilding that muscle, it actually requires energy. So at the time of the exercise, you can start burning calories, but also afterwards, when it's rebuilding the muscle and repairing it, as it does naturally, then you're also going to be burning more calories. So actually focusing on strength can actually be more effective for a lot of people compared to just focusing on cardio. But I would always suggest do what you love doing, because if you don't enjoy strength but you enjoy cardio, then actually cardio is probably going to be better for you because you're likely to do it into the long term. I hope that's been useful. Please do put any questions in the comments. If you disagree with anything, then put that in the comments as well. Something I haven't mentioned is fasting and intermittent fasting, because that is massively beneficial for losing weight. And if you want to see more information on that, you can check out my video here that I did very recently on intermittent fasting, and I go through the huge benefits of it. But if you're looking to lose weight, then intermittent fasting is definitely for you. So do check that video out here. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.